you could throw a rock and hit someone who has 10 good ideas for an app. Welcome to the Not a Financial Advisor podcast, where we talk money, mindset, and mistakes without pretending to have it all figured out. I'm Chase, and my mission is simple: to help you maximize your potential and think differently about freedom, business, and wealth. You'll hear from people who are actually doing it, building businesses, growing wealth, and living life on their terms. I'm glad you're here. Enjoy the episode. Why would you even start one? What gave you the idea that you could be like, let's create this?
Yeah, I think, when I first started getting into tech, it was a lot different than it is now. I kind of dove in about 6 years ago. And so to answer your question, when I first started, I think I was just naive. I was, younger and dumber. But I'm happy I dove into it. And I think now with all the tools and how quickly you can, prop something up, it's I guess my answer to your question would be why not? Like, why not take the 40 to 50 hours to learn some of these tools to build something that's in your brain that you think could add value? I mean, you can get to an MVP, a minimal viable product, in a weekend and test it in the next week. So I guess why not? What if it does provide a lot of value? What if you have something there? It doesn't have to be perfect, but if you could get that early validation, then, it's something to build on. So yeah, I would just say, why not?
That's awesome, man. Well, we're going to dive way deeper into that. But before we do that, I just want to introduce everyone to my guest here. This is Ryan Craig, no relation, although cool last name.
Yep.
Been a good friend of mine for a few years now. And he opened his first restaurant 10 years ago in the state of California, which I'm sure has some different regulations versus his next restaurant, which he opened in Idaho a few years back. He also dove into the tech world about 6 years ago, as he said. He loves to build. He feels like building business is the best way to make a great impact, on yourself and the community. And just earlier this year, he became a dad. So that's pretty neat. And I love that you mentioned everything you've built has been centered around making you the best dad possible. So we're going to dig into that a little bit. But before we go on those topics, let's talk about getting into the restaurant business. You said you opened a restaurant business 10 years ago in California. How'd you get started? Like what happened to get you started into that business?
Yeah. So decided to open that when I was 22. It opened when I was 23. I was going to school at San Diego State studying entrepreneurship and driving back on the weekends and started building the first restaurant. It was definitely bootstrapped, if you will. We kind of did all the work ourselves. And really how I got into that was there was just a need. I opened that one up in my hometown, and there was just a glaring need for the type of restaurant that we put there. So, I get that question a lot. How'd you get into restaurants? And, it wasn't like a passion project per se. It was, hey, I need to build a foundation. I want to build it young. Um, I have much, much bigger goals than just owning and operating one restaurant. But I definitely saw it as a way of like, hey, I can learn a lot, and financially, I can build a foundation that will allow me to do those things later in life. So it wasn't like I said, it wasn't a passion project. It was just filling a need.
Well, let's
Um,
set the tone here. I honestly don't even know the answer to this. Did you go buy a restaurant that was already there and then fix it and rebrand it, or did you literally build it?
Literally built it. So we took two suites. One suite was like an old music store, and the other one was a small post office. Um, And so we took the two suites, took the wall down in the middle, literally started from scratch. I like to say we didn't build it from the ground up. We had to get down to the ground and then could build it from the ground up. Um, so demo, digging trenches at 3 in the morning. I mean, everything was built from scratch. The brand was built from scratch. It's not a franchise. Um, so it's definitely something that I'm pretty proud of just because it literally came from nothing. And I think that that's one of the beautiful things about business is you could take something in your mind and put it into the real world and people can get value from it. I think it's really cool.
That's incredible, man. So you knew Like, give me an idea. So I'm sitting here and I'm like, gosh, I want to build my own business.
Mhm.
You, how much research did you do to determine, like, yes, this is what we need and let's go all in?
A little bit, but not as much as people probably think. I think you really gotta you definitely have to do your homework, but I've learned to really trust my gut, and I don't think I knew that that's what I was doing back then, but I just knew it would work. Of course, there was some market research, and you can't go into things too blindly, but that's one of the advantages of youth, right? I mean, like I said, I was 22, 23. If this thing fell flat on its face, like it's okay. I would have learned a lot, and so it was kind of you get to that fork in the road of like go no go, and man, if you're 20 to 30, there should be a lot of goes, I think. Um, Intelligent goes. You don't want to be reckless, but yeah,
I happen to know this about you a little bit. I mean, did you go to college?
I did, unfortunately.
So tell us about that. Like, why is that? Did you graduate, and why
Yeah.
is that unfortunate?
I say that half facetiously. I think I did it the right way. I went to a junior college the first 2 years, mainly because I couldn't play baseball at an actual D1 school. So, saved a lot of money doing it that way. And then I went to a state school, an in-state school. So luckily I had no debt, which is unfortunately not the case for a lot of people. Um, I feel that what I learned in those 4 years, I could have learned through other avenues, YouTube, just meeting people, getting mentors, a lot quicker. So, I'm not going to sit here and say that college necessarily hurt me because I'm in a blessed position from that standpoint. But from a time standpoint, I think I could have been accelerated at least 3 years.
That's awesome. So,
Yeah.
I'm going to kind of try and bring all this together. You graduate from college. Did you have a specific degree?
Yeah, I studied entrepreneurship, which was kind of a newer degree, a singular degree at San Diego State at the time. I think now it's pretty popular and offered more widely. But yeah, that's what I.
So, surely something from that probably helped you in some way. Like, what was the number one thing that helped you going through college, in your opinion?
Yeah, I think I did take some cool classes through the entrepreneurial program. Uh, to answer that question, I think there was actually just one teacher. Her name was Tita Gray, and I'm actually still in contact with her. Super cool lady. And it was less about like what we learned and more about the confidence she instilled in us. I had her my senior year, and I just remember her, saying, "Go out into the world and build great things." And it was this vote of confidence that you got at 22 that's kind of hard to get. Um, and I don't think everyone gets that. So it was just a couple individual relationships made during that time that I think benefited me most.
I love that. Who you know really does matter. And sometimes all it takes is one person believing in you more than you believe in yourself. So that's awesome. All right. So we built the restaurant from the ground. We're digging trenches in the middle of the night at 3 a.m. What happened? Like you opened it and you just started making money?
Um, yes,
Wow.
with a lot of mistakes. I mean, I tell people all the time with how many mistakes I made. I'm surprised that restaurant is still in business. Um, but I learned a ton. I think it goes back to we had a good business from the start, and so even though I wasn't the best operator, I was learning on the fly. We were able to overcome that because I think we just were in the right spot, and had the right brand, and it clicked with our audience. Um, but yeah, I operated that one for 6 years. Very unintelligently, I worked myself into the ground, and I mean, literal 100-hour weeks or more. Like, the whole story of like sleeping at the restaurant and then waking up the next morning, and I did all of that. And so I learned a lot in that process. But
Give me like a couple takeaways. I mean, obviously you
yeah.
said you did that for 6 years. So we'll talk about your transition, but like, working 100-hour weeks, I
Hmm.
mean, that's a lot. I mean, that's a commitment to success. So What would you say to someone who maybe is looking at working 100-hour weeks right now?
I think until you have your foundation, you got to do anything and everything if that is your goal. And I always preface that because I think blanket statement advice is really hard. All of our lives are so nuanced, and people's goals are different. My goal was always, you touched on it earlier, but to have the freedom when I was a dad. And I've had that goal since I was 16 or 17. And so it was, I don't want to say it was easy, but I just had a very clear overall vision. I wasn't sure exactly how I'd get there, but it was clear to me from the beginning. And I just felt like that's what it took. And I never wanted to be a guy that didn't have credibility. And so I wanted to know how to do it all before I asked someone else to do it, especially when I was, 23 years old. I kind of had to. I mean, I was the youngest guy working there. A lot of times these bartenders or cooks were like almost double my age. So I felt I probably had to prove myself, and that came at the sacrifice of myself, but I wouldn't necessarily change it. I learned a lot, and I learned what not to do mainly.
So let's talk about some of that. I mean,
Okay.
obviously, restaurant is going well, but it's working you into the ground. Like, and I'm thinking about that person out there right now who's maybe in your shoes and they
Yeah.
are in that boat and they're like, because I know business owners. I get the opportunity to coach a lot of business owners all over the country. And one of the things I've recognized is that some of them are ready to literally get out of the business. It's a business, it's successful, but they are so tired of the business that they've built. How did you break out of that? Because at some point you got away from the 100-hour weeks. I'm assuming that wasn't just like, oh, I'm just gonna stop doing this. Like it was intentional. Tell us about that.
Yeah, I definitely did get out of it. I mean, to paint a quick picture, I now have two restaurants in two different states, and I work probably an hour a week on both. And so
Wow.
that was very, very intentional. It wasn't quick, but it was intentional. If I had to break it down, I think the first thing is giving yourself permission. I didn't give myself permission. I had this Puritan mindset that I needed to work 100 hours. I needed to work 70 hours as I got a little smarter about it. Um, and there's always going to be people telling you that you need to do that. But I got to the point of, like, hey, the whole point of building a business is freedom, right? It goes back to my original goal of having freedom for my family in the future. And so I had to give myself permission, even though people around me didn't, because people won't understand that goal. A lot of people won't understand that goal. And they'll support you in it until you do it, right? It's like I was in the bar every day in the restaurant working, and then all of a sudden I take a day off, and people are like, "Oh, the boss man," and this, that, or the other. And you got to look at when that happens, because that'll happen when you grow. You have to look at those people's lives and say, "Do I want that?" And the answer was always no. And so that was the biggest part, man, was the mindset of like allowing myself to employ leverage, to think about things differently. And so the next part of that is just, systematically, how do you go about that? And so that was probably like a 2 or 3 year period of that, right? I made so many mistakes, bad hires, trusting people too early, trusting and not verifying, not having the systems in place. So that was a lot of a grind there, just learning from mistakes. Um, but I feel like I'm at a really good place now of that dance between systems and empowering people, um, and allowing them to do their job.
Okay, 6 years in, you get someone else to manage it, and then you decide to open up another business in another state.
Hmm.
I guess my question is like instead of me being like, "Hey, what would you do differently?" You actually did differently because you did it.
Yeah.
So what were like the big just headline versions of going into my next restaurant, here's the non-negotiables. Give me an idea of that.
Yeah, that's a great question. I was definitely not going to do it like I did it the first time. And I was going to hold myself accountable to that, right? I think when you're someone that likes to build and kind of likes to be in the trenches, it's easy to get caught there. And I want to grow. And just if you just look at it very systematically, if I am stuck in any one business, by definition, I cannot grow. And so I put a team in place from day one. The difference was I could afford it this time, by the way. Like in the first one, it was just you had to be resourceful and it had to be me. But now we could afford to build a team. We could afford to have somebody else build the restaurant. So that didn't take as much as my time. And then I'm a maniac now of um, systems and holding to those and holding people accountable. I think I became a better leader of leaders. And so this second restaurant, I don't want to say it was easy, but it was easy. You know, the analogy I use is like when you're warming up in baseball on deck and you have the donut on your bat, right? The weight. I just took the donut off and it was like almost too easy. I had to like catch myself. And so but there was so much work that went into making that easy.
So I think something I really want to almost interrogate you on a little bit because you're like, well, I had money now, so it was easier.
Hmm.
So are you telling me if you didn't have money, you would have made the same mistakes you did in the first one, knowing all the things you know, or would you have probably still done things differently?
Oh, I definitely would have done things differently.
Okay, so I don't want people listening to think, oh well, it's I have to wait until I have money to build my business the right way. That may or may not be true.
No, I think it's only half the story, right? I mean, I think it's obvious that having more money and having more leverage can be helpful, but also having more money can be hurtful, right? Like if you lose your resourcefulness in business, it can smack you across the face pretty quickly, especially in the restaurant world, right? Margins are already pretty thin. Things are moving at a fast pace. So it is that dance of deploying capital where it's intelligent, but you don't need it. Um, the best form of leverage is your skills and your knowledge,
I love that.
and your mindset. So it really, if you don't have that, if I didn't have the, you know, 6 to 8 year experience of that first restaurant and you gave me $1 million, I would still make the same mistakes. And so that's super important. But because I had the skills, the knowledge, the mindset shift, still not perfect, right? I'm still a work in progress every day. And you give me $1 million, I'm dangerous. So, there is some nuance to that.
Something that I just brought this up to my team the other. Hey guys, I paused the video. I paused it super fast. I just want to say thank you so much for watching this. And if you're getting anything out of it, anything of value at all, do me a favor, hit that like button. It helps me out a ton. Thank you so much. And now back to the rest of the show. And it was something I feel like I've overlooked because when I'm, teaching people in my industry how to have success and some of the things, one of the things I have failed as a leader in exposing as part of my success was my work ethic. And I literally fell on the sword a couple weeks ago in front of my team. I'm like, you know what? We don't talk about this enough, but the reality is the reason I made it to where I did through the hell was because I was willing to work 70, 80, 90 hours a week. Like just like Ryan was saying, 100-hour weeks in the restaurant and staying the night there and waking up in the morning and doing it all over again. That just begs the question, what are you willing to sacrifice? So, as you're bringing talented people into your organization, do you interrogate their work ethic? And if so, how?
That is a great topic. I think I have made this mistake many times, too many times. It's like I kick myself, and how do you keep making this mistake? Um, Now that is something that is very top of mind for me. And so what I've learned, and this is not a rocket science idea, is people will tell you whatever you want to hear. A very smart man told me one time that in an interview, that will be like the best version you see of someone. You told me that. And it's true. And so what I've started to look at is stuff that they cannot verbally, lie about. How do they take care of themselves? How clean is their car? How do they maintain their household? What are their relationships like outside of work? Are they a good dad, a good wife? Do they put people, in front of, like, all those types of things that we leave clues as human beings. everywhere. And so I've started to look at those things a lot more, and almost to a T, the people that I've worked with, employed in leadership or otherwise, that have not worked out for that reason that you brought up, there's tons of clues around them that I missed. And I think that that's something that's been really helpful is just asking them, what do you do on a daily basis? How do you take care of yourself? What do you like to do? Tell me about these things. And there's a lot of clues in there. And so moving forward, I only want to work with people that are willing to roll up their sleeves when the time is right.
I yes, amen. And something just for you entrepreneurs out there who are looking to get leverage, or even if you have a business that hires a lot of people, here's just a quick thing to remember. Anytime you have a bad hire, that is something. The good news about that is you can identify, like, where did I miss? And then you put that into your discovery piece during interviews, and the screening interview, and the in-person interviews. And if you do sort of like during the interview work sessions where they have to go do stuff, that's where you flush all that out. So all right, let's shift gears. We were talking about money, and I guess you share whatever you'd like to share in terms of financials, but these businesses have been profitable for you. So give us an idea of, like, what that's allowed you to do, because now you're only working 1 hour a week, and you're making pretty good income. Like, I want to talk about a little bit about, once you started making money, like, how did that change things? And then we're going to dive into, what do you do with the money that you make?
Yeah. It goes back to just building the foundation. I think really the way I look at it is being able to have the time to explore other things, build other skill sets. I mean, the fact, I was just a restaurant guy 5 years ago, and I've been able to kind of go headfirst into the tech world, which is something that's super fascinating to me. Um, and so I'd be lying if I didn't say that money has allowed me to do that, right? The restaurants pay my bills and allow me to invest in a way that I want. And so that has created a lot of free time. And for someone like me, I don't want to fill that free time with sitting on a beach or anything like that. I want to continue to grow and build skills. So I'm a big proponent of, how do you build a foundation? How do you build cash flow that is flowing primarily without you? I think that that is super important. So I think about cash flow a lot, and stable cash flow now.
Well, and I mean, I just because I know you, like, a lot of your cash flow comes from your businesses. So,
Yeah.
when we talk about investing in money, and, most people are thinking, like, oh, cryptocurrency or stock market or real estate.
Hmm.
Um, Business is a major, major way to invest and potentially receive passive income. Now, just by definition, your restaurants are not passive because you
Hmm.
work,
Hmm.
even though it's only 1 hour a week. But I bet a lot of people would love to get the kind of income you get from
Yeah.
1 hour a week. It's very close to passive. So
Yeah.
tell me about that. Like, when you get extra income, where do
Mhm.
you want to put it, and why?
Yeah, for me, I'm invested in all the boring stuff, like in the stock market and things like that. I'm not invested in any real estate. Um, and all my money goes towards building other businesses and building skill sets. My thought on that is not to say that real estate is a bad investment. I think it can be an amazing investment. It's something that I don't understand as well as I understand businesses. In my personal opinion, like I said, I'm optimizing for cash flow, um, and enterprise value on the businesses. That's a whole nother conversation. But um, to me, there is no better way than businesses. I am a firm believer that everyone should own a business of some sort if you want to. To me, there's no better investment. I mean, you look at the restaurants, right? And they often get pinned as like one of the worst businesses to start. And if you don't know what you're doing, they are. You will get eaten up. Um, but the two that I have been really great for me. And so I'm just going to continue to invest in businesses, invest in cash flow. Um, but like I said, I still have money in the stock market. I understand that building businesses can be risky, so I definitely want to de-risk myself in that way. Um, but we definitely live below our means, and our investments are in our businesses.
Yeah. So, I think just for the record, any business that you don't know what you're doing, you can get your lunch eaten.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
and restaurants obviously like super
Yeah.
super competitive.
Hmm.
So definitely accurate there. But let's talk about your shift into tech. Like,
Uh-huh.
we started off this conversation talking about like, I mean, I could throw a rock and hit someone who's got an idea for an app. Very few people execute on that, and of the
Hmm.
ones that execute, very few people build something that is actually worthwhile. So, uh, uh, tell us about give us like the 2 minute spiel. What are you doing, and where's it at right now?
Yeah. Well, I'll say this. I think that there is a massive, massive opportunity on everyone's hands right now to marry the world that you know with technology. And so the world that I know is small businesses ultimately.
So
Yes,
say that again. Say that again. Marry the world you know.
with technology.
Okay.
And so that I think that has been true for decades now, probably. The difference is I can build an app. You know, I'm not a senior developer. Um, and if I need help, the help has gotten so much cheaper. And so I kind of saw that 5 or 6 years ago. And I wanted to dive into something that I thought could create a lot of leverage. And so if you go back to my start working those 100-hour weeks, I was the least leveraged. And I say leverage in a good way, not like debt. I employed leverage probably the least out of anyone on the planet, right? Like stupid. And so now everything I think about is how do I employ leverage? And tech is a beautiful, beautiful car to do that in. And so I wanted to learn, and I thought that there would be a competitive advantage for someone like me that doesn't necessarily have a tech background, but kind of understands how the world works. Like I understand restaurants, I understand small business uh, really well, and so uh, I just wanted to dive in and learn. And I think the cool part is the way I say it is the technology has caught up with my stupidity. And so, from an actual building of the tech side, it is so much easier. And if you know how to lead people, if you know how to create brand, if you know how to come up with ideas, if you know how to distribute it, you can do a lot of cool things right now. And so that's something that I'm really really excited about.
Well, I was just Googling, like, what's the definition of leverage? So, the exertion of force by means of a lever or an object used in the manner of a lever.
Hmm.
So, a different way is use something to maximum advantage. Now, a lot of people, get really hung up on all sorts of ways that leverage shows up. And I just want to point out what Ryan said. So, someone, if I say like, "Hey, you need leverage," they think I need to hire someone, or they think I need to borrow money, or they think, whatever. But it's literally anything that can make you better than you are today, right? It's a tool you can use to exert more, a greater result, or to receive a greater result from the efforts you put in. So I appreciate you bringing that up because technology, systems, education, all these things are leverage. So
Yeah,
that,
I'll give you just a quick example in my world of that. So I'm building a tool right now that solves a very specific problem that I experience. Um, and I'm building it. It has costed me so far $150 and my time. So I've had to learn through YouTube on how to build it, different tools that I can use, and I don't know, maybe 50, 60 hours. But this is a tool that I believe if it works, I could charge my end customer $2,500 a month to $3,000 a month. And so you think about that, like back to your point, like don't let money get in the way, especially in the world that we live in. I mean, and I'm no special. I just took a real problem that I have experienced and then filled my skill set gap to build something to get out into the world. And I mean, I just think that's where the massive opportunity lies. If that works out, even on a super small scale, if I get 10 customers, that's 25 grand a month. What could you do with 25 grand a month? And so that's what I think about is like, that's just more bullets in my chamber to go do things with.
Oh, that's incredible. I think something else people might be picking up on, which is very easy to pick up on, is you get into action. So, how do you filter in like where you're going to put your time in and not? Because that's certainly something that, especially for talented people, opportunity will start to show up more and more and more, and your no's can oftentimes be just as important as your yeses. So, how do you determine what gets your time?
Well, full transparency, I'm not sure I do a very good job of this. It's definitely an internal battle I have daily. I think the biggest thing that's helped me with this, honestly, is having my daughter. You don't have a, I don't have the luxury of added time if I want to be a present dad, which I do. That's the most important thing to me. Um, and so I really have to be diligent about what I do. And a really good example of that is like the restaurant world. Like we're lucky to have two successful restaurants, and with that comes people that want to, use the brand. They want to franchise and be a part of it. And so, this year I've probably turned down 5 to 6 opportunities for that. And it's just looking at things strategically where I think there's other opportunities that take less time, less effort, and could create more cash flow for me right now. It doesn't mean that that restaurant opportunity is not something that will happen. That won't happen in the future, but I'm kind of tabling that until I can create leverage in that world, build the team that I want to do it with, and can have 100 of them, not 3 of them. And so I think looking at the size of the opportunity, um, if it's going to be fun, like this is something you and I have talked about, and I've really been thinking about a lot is it's a blessing, but when you build that foundation early, you then get to choose the game you play and who you play the game with. Um, and that's a really cool opportunity to have, but you have to be super diligent in what you choose. Because if you say yes to everything, then you'll get nothing done. Um, but also, you don't want to hold yourself back. So I think it's really personal. I was having a conversation with my buddy the other day. It's a really good way to paint this picture, I think. His dad was a serial entrepreneur. Okay. He had his hand in so many different things, and he is massively successful from a financial standpoint. His father in law, this is almost like rich dad, poor dad, but they're both rich. His father in law was a corporate guy, right? CEO of a big energy company, also massively successful. If you sat down with both those men at a dinner table, they're probably very interesting conversations. The interesting point, though, is if you flipped their roles, they'd both be miserable.
Mm.
And so I think you have to have like reckless self awareness. Some of that only comes with time. But what fits your goals? What fits what fires you up? What's fun to you? And so for me, I think that that has shifted more towards having my hand in a few things, getting things from 0 to 1. I love doing that. I love building the initial team. I don't necessarily love operating. And so filling my world with great operators so I can continue to build and grow and, be in the village phase versus the city phase really fits my personality. So I just think about like congruence from all those aspects.
So, got it. Well, if we go into like where your tech is at right now, your the apps you're working on,
Mm,
um, like, is this something that you're going to be doing for the next 20 years, or is this like a 6 month thing? Like,
yeah.
what do you got going on?
I think each opportunity is different. Um, the way I kind of paint this picture, I think there's really two types of businesses you build. One is a speedboat, and I have a couple things like that. You want to move fast, you want to be agile, you want to get in, you want to get out. And then there's businesses that are aircraft carriers, right? These are businesses that'll have 30, 40, 50 years maybe. They're highly defensible. Speed doesn't matter as much. And I think you build those businesses differently. And so specifically on the tech side, I have both. I have one app that I've been working on for 7 years. And really, to get to the ultimate finish line, the way I see it, and who knows where things will go, it might be another 7 years. And I'm okay with that. That is an aircraft carrier business, right? The tool I explained earlier, that's more of a speedboat. Build fast, iterate fast. If it works, put a team in place, maybe get out fast and sell it. Um, so each tech tool is a little bit different, but probably falls into one of those two buckets.
All right, let's talk about just you as a person and maybe some of the things that you feel like have, helped shape you. Um, I want to talk about like daily habits. What are some things you do, every day or every week or with consistency that have helped shape who you are?
Yeah, I definitely try to work out consistently. I'm not going to sit here and tell you I do it every day and I have good seasons and bad seasons with it, but overall in my life, it's a consistent thing. Um,
So if I'm sitting out there and I'm like, dude, I'm working 100 hours a week, I don't have time to work out. Like, why? Convince me I should
I
make time. What's it do for me?
don't know if you're going to like my answer. I don't know if I necessarily would convince you to do it. I think it depends on where you're at. I mean, there's seasons of life. I mean, when I was working 100 hours, I was not healthy in any sense of the word, right? Um, but I had a singular mission. And so even now, like specific to working out, I don't work out as much as I would like to. I mean, my goal is to be in a place where I have these cash flow engines that are making me money and I could probably work out 3 to 4 hours a day, right? So I'm not even close to what my goal is, but that's the season that I'm in right now. Um, I will say this though, I think if you don't take care of yourself mentally, physically, emotionally, you will not be the best businessman or businesswoman that you can be. You will not be the best dad or wife or friend. And so it's, very simple analogy of put your oxygen mask on first. Um, but there's also seasons where you got to grind it out and maybe you don't take care of yourself as much as you should, but as long as you have the vision of getting there, I think that's okay.
Yeah, I think that seasons of life it's okay to give yourself permission to be where you're at, right? And
Mhm.
a different way that we kind of have looked at this is you can only really be like a 10 out of 10 on a handful of things, right? So like if you want to be a 10 out of 10 father, for example, and you want to be a 10 out of 10 business owner and you want to be a 10 out of 10 friend, it's like you're probably not going to be a 10 out of 10 100% of the time, right? Like you've got to figure out where you're at. Like my business needs help. What's going to suffer? Is it going to be me as a dad or me as a friend? And I'm a dad, you're a dad. Like it's pretty
Mhm.
simple. My friendships are going to suffer for a little while
Right.
because I'm not willing to let my relationship with my kids suffer.
Hmm.
But that's going to happen too. There's going to be times where you might have to have the relationship with your kids suffer, depending on what's going on. So very interesting. This is a fun conversation to kind of dig into. Um, other than working out, like, are there any other habits that things that you found for you really help you to be the best in those worlds?
I think making time to think and um, I would say having this self awareness around how you think best. And so I'll give you how that shows up in my life. I have found that I think the best when I talk things out. And I was not always like this. My wife is a counselor, so she's brought this out in me a lot. So I try to find time each day to kind of talk through the things I'm working through, back to that dance that you kind of talked about, right? Like you never feel like you're firing on all cylinders. And so there's a lot of dance in there. And so I found that like talking to people I trust daily really helps me. So I have a couple of really close friends that I trust. My wife is someone that I talk to obviously every day. But for different people, I think that means different things. That might be meditating, that might be journaling. So that's just my version of finding clarity. And so, you know, working out, I think allows me to find a lot of clarity. Talking through things allows me to find a lot of clarity. Um, and I think it's okay to slow down a little bit. I have not, I wasn't always a believer in that, but I'm at a phase in my life where making the right decisions is can be pretty important. So that's an important habit for me daily.
So I'm going to take this time just to explain something that I think has been very powerful for me to understand, and it's about relationships. So a lot of people have heard, and then I want you to jump in on this with your thoughts. But a lot of people have heard, you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. I like to go a little bit more in depth on that. Like in the next 5 years, 3 things are going to have the greatest impact on your life: the books you read, the people you meet, and the questions you ask. And so the books you read is simply just the knowledge you're pouring into your brain. So, what are you putting into your head? Do you know every single, you know, uh, word from every single brand new song for the last 20 years? Like, cool. Is that what you're optimizing for? That's great if it is. Do you know every single headline on every single news station about every single political event? Is that what you want? Like, is that what you're optimizing for? So like, what are you pouring into your head? And is the stuff you're pouring into your head moving you in the direction you want to go? So there's one. That's the books you read. The second one is the people you meet. And the way that I like to say this one, Ryan, is you've heard like you're the average net worth of the 5 people you spend the most time with. I agree with that. But you're also the average health, the average mindset, the average relationship, right? Like all these critical things in your world show up that way. And to give you an example, like if your friends all make $10 an hour, or let's say $20 an hour, and you are going to look for a job, the likelihood of you finding a job that's $20 an hour is going to be through the roof. It's going to be like 10x. But if all your friends are making $50 an hour, the likelihood of you making $50 an hour, it goes up like 10x. So there's that side of things. And then I guess just to go to the last one, the questions you ask will change your life. And even like showing up to an interview like this, like I've got a number of questions I have for someone like you who's had the success that you've had. And when I bump into someone else who I want to ask them great questions. And most importantly, I want to ask myself great questions, which goes right into your habit of thinking time. Like you should have questions prepared for when you're in a position to think. If Ryan didn't come up with the restaurant idea while he was already working 100 hours a week. I'm sure he was like, what can I do? What can I do? What can I do? And obsessing over it. And that's why he did the restaurant. That's why he's done the app that's like long term. And we didn't mention it's the can we mention it? Are you good with us
Yeah, yeah,
mentioning
yeah,
it?
yeah.
Yeah. The Coup app, which is an app for, both consumers and businesses to connect each other easier. And then of course the new program that you're working on, like you cannot come up with these things if you don't come up for air. So I know that was a lot. What did you hear? What's going through your head around those things?
Yeah, there is a lot there, a lot of good stuff there. A couple things I'd touch on. I think we live in a very cool time. I think it's important to physically surround yourself with great people. Um, but you think about like those 5 people that you spend the most time with. You could do that virtually in a lot of ways. Like you said, what are you consuming? What podcasts are you listening to? What YouTubes are you watching? How are you filling up your free time? And I think that's different for everyone. I mean, we were talking kind of off camera before this about some current events, and I told you like I'm not your guy. It's just not what I fill my mind with, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's just I'm in my world, and I know what I want my world to contain, and everyone has that opportunity now to control that, and that is so cool. And you have to filter that because it's very easy to be inundated with a bunch of crap. So that's important. And then I would say the question thing is super important. I mean, how many times have we seen people, you've probably seen this socially, right? They meet a great person that can help them in a lot of ways, but they talk too much. They don't ask questions. They don't pour or pull that knowledge out of that person. And so I would say that's something that I try to work on young, and I think might be one of my superpowers now is I try to talk about myself as little as possible, unless it's in a format like this. But um, the more questions you can ask of the people around you, the more you audit your own questions. Like, how many times do we just ask the wrong question? And if we ask the right question, it could get us to where we want to be. And so when I'm building businesses, I think about that a lot, right? Is this even the right question? Is the question I'm asking internally, is it emotional? Is it irrational? Is it even the right question? And so I think if you become a master question asker outwardly and inwardly, you'll find opportunity everywhere, and opportunity will be a magnet to you, I think.
I'm glad you brought that up because in the few years that we've gotten to know each other really well, I have observed that about you is you take it in. You're often one of the smartest people in the room and you don't speak. And because that's how you got so smart. You're just gathering everyone else's info. But I would share that you have a lot of great things to share. That's why I wanted to bring you on here. But that's amazing. Funny, real quick story. I just yesterday, I was asked to go speak at the new agent class. Real estate agents are getting into real estate right now, and they asked me to be a guest and go speak for about 10 minutes. And I went and spoke, and I said, "Hey, I'll be in the lobby. Come talk to me." And there's, I don't know, 25 people in there, and two people came out to talk to me. And by the way, I had to be like, "Hi, I'm Chase." So I know there was a little bit of intimidation there, maybe a little bit, but the fact that you know, you're getting into that business and there's someone you have access to. So it says two things to me. One, like you need to prepare. Be prepared for the person you want to meet. Be prepared for what you can ask them. And then the second one is you got to be brave. Like you got to be willing to extend that arm out. Like if relationships matter, you need to make them matter in your world. So
Yeah, I think that once again, there's a lot there. Another really smart guy who may or may not be named Chase asked me a question in a group that changed a lot for me, which was, who is the one person that can change everything for you, basically? How do you get that person into your life? And I took action on that question. I thought a lot about it, and then I took some action. And I won't bore you with the details, but just asking myself the right question through you, fortunately, um, changed a lot for me in the actual like world of like things that have happened, just from a question. And the other good part about what you said with that group that you just spoke at is, if you understand that nuance, if you understand how to ask great questions, if you understand how to hold a conversation in a way that makes someone feel great, it is a superpower because most people don't do it. And so that's good news for you if you know how to do it. Yeah.
I love it. Well, so before we go into kind of a little bit of rapid fire, like what
Yeah.
is there anything we haven't talked about that you think, younger you would have loved to have talked about, or, this is the opportunity for you to open this up?
Yeah. I think uh, a big thing I would like if I could tell my 23, 24-year-old self is to trust yourself. Um, as long as you're putting in the work and you can't lie to yourself. I think for too long, I took the advice of people that aren't even close to where I want to be. I worked with people that I shouldn't have worked with. And so now I really trust myself, and you don't need to wait to do that. If, like I said, if you're putting in the work, go out into the world with some confidence, be diligent about who you work with. I think that's more important than anything. You know, ideas are a dime a dozen, like you kind of touched on, but like the right team will make your life amazing and the wrong team will make your life hell. So I think that's super important when you're talking about actually just building the business and surrounding yourself in your life. So those would be kind of two big things is really trust yourself, be very self-aware, and be diligent about who you work with.
Yeah, if you're going to be an entrepreneur, you're going to have to recognize like the people closest to you will often be the ones holding you back the most. And by the way, it doesn't make them bad people at all.
Hmm.
They care. They likely care so much about you. They don't want to see you get hurt. And so they're like, "Are you sure you wanna do that? Are you sure you wanna open a restaurant, Ryan? Like, most restaurants fail. Like, you probably should look at, you got the degree, why don't you go back for more school?" Like,
Yeah.
I'm sure these kinda conversations showed up. So, did they show up? I guess that's the first thing. It's normal.
Yeah, I think they still show up in my life. And like you said, it doesn't mean these people are bad. I think they've all a big thing that happens if you're going to continue to grow and you're going to go through these seasons of your life, which I intend to do until the day I die. Um, there's people that have fallen in love with that version of you. And so when you talk about doing something different outside of that version that they love of you, like that could sting a little bit and it could be tough for them. And so understanding where they're coming from and not taking it as gospel, but just understanding where that's coming from, not letting it take you off of your North Star, I think is super important because you could easily be held back. I have been held back by well-intentioned people a lot,
Oh,
but
yeah.
that's my fault.
Yeah, I mean, I've sold a lot of houses in my career, and I can't tell you how many times, someone's brother or dad or uncle or cousin or grandparent who's never owned a home has tried to talk the person out of buying a home.
Yeah.
And it's just scary, right? It's just
Hmm.
scary. So, all right, let's go into a little bit of a lightning round.
Yeah.
So go with your gut. You're good at that. You already explained that earlier, Ryan. So like this should be simple for you. Give me a favorite book or podcast that shaped you, and you can do both if you want.
Yeah. There's so many good podcasts out there. I've been obsessed with the Founders podcast recently. I love How I Built This with Guy Raz. Um, those are two staples for me. And then, intermittent episodes here and there. Books are hard. I mean, there's a lot. The one that comes to my mind is The Almanac of Naval Ravikant. I think everyone should read that book. Like even if you're not, an entrepreneur, I think it's an amazing book. It's if you highlight books, like you might need a couple highlighters. It's that good in my opinion.
Perfect.
Yeah.
All right, best advice you have ever received.
Oh man, I don't think I have a good answer for you on this other than I kind of touched on it earlier. I think advice is overrated because every individual has different goals, different setbacks, different mindsets, different challenges, and I just think a blanket statement advice can be really dangerous. And so I guess the best piece of advice is to not take too much of it, and definitely don't take it from people who haven't accomplished where you want to go. That's a
Yeah,
big mistake I made when I was younger. You look at authority figures, family members, people that um, maybe you respect, and that's okay. But you really got to look at their life. Like, should you take marriage advice from a guy that's divorced? I don't know. You know,
yeah.
as an example.
We were talking about the richest man in Babylon
Yeah.
earlier before we got on here, and one of the stories in there is the guy takes gem advice from the butcher,
Right.
and it doesn't work out well. Spoiler alert. So,
Yeah.
all right, most underrated habit for success.
Therapy.
Ooh, tell me more.
Yeah. I'm a big fan of it, not just because my wife's a counselor. I have been before I met her. Um, if if you don't know yourself, you're screwed. Like you're gonna go down paths that you ultimately don't want to go down. I think this is how people get into careers for 10 years and then they look around like, what the hell? Like, how did I even get here? Um, I think you have to be maniacal about self-awareness. Like you have to face your demons. You have to be honest with yourself. Um, and I just feel like if you want to be the best version of yourself, like why would you not want to put more tools in your tool belt? And the game that we play as entrepreneurs is ultimately mental. There's obviously, if you're in physical shape or good physical shape, that helps and all these things, but like the game that we play is mental. And so why would you not want to sharpen that sword in every way that you can? Um, and so I'm a big proponent of it. I think that it could help a lot of people. And man, just taking an hour a week to work on that, I think unlocks a lot. I've seen it unlock a lot in my life, with blind spots that I had that I didn't even know I had, and it's made me an exponentially better leader, entrepreneur, dad, husband, friend. Um, and so I think finding that right fit of a good therapist or counselor, whatever that looks like for you, and it's different for everyone, because they're not all great. Just calling it what it is. But if you find that right fit, um, it's a massive unlock, I think.
So, growth hack or like one hack is marry a counselor, I guess, right, or a therapist.
Well, I get the free sessions every morning with coffee, but then there's another guy I go after to pay.
Okay, okay, okay.
So yeah,
All right. So, one piece of advice for someone who's just starting out.
it kind of ties into what I was just saying. Like know your North Star. I don't think you need to know exactly how you're getting there. I think that that's definitely overrated. And when you're young, take the risks. Like build that foundation. You have the energy. You have the time to rebound should anything go wrong. Um, but you have to have a North Star. Like, why do you do all this? Because it's not easy. It's hard. Like, this. Every like I haven't had an easy day as an entrepreneur yet. I'm still waiting for it. Um, but I have my North Star. I know what's important to me. I know what my goals are, and I know what lights me up. And so getting through those nuanced hard days is, I don't want to say easy, but it uh, makes it doable. And so you have to know that. But don't get caught up in the left turn, the right turn. There's no right way to do anything. Like everyone is figuring it out. I think people could easily look at someone like you who's had a lot of success and be like, Chase has it all figured out. But if you pull the curtain back on anyone or any business, I think 10 times out of 10, you're going to be like, what? They don't, they're not even close to having it as figured out as I thought they did. And so
Don't
I think
tell
that,
everyone, man. Come on.
no, I'm the same way. I mean, I
No,
just use you as the
it's
guinea pig.
100% true.
Yeah,
It's very accurate.
you're way more organized than I am. But it's just mayhem and you got to get used to it. And you just got to make it a little bit better every day and understand that you're playing the long game. I'm like 10 years into this game. I'm 33 and it's like, I hope to be playing the game of business until the day I die. So, with modern medicine, I mean, that might be another 80 years. But,
Sounds great.
um, but yeah, know who you are. Try to figure out who you are if you don't. At least know a semblance of a North Star, and then don't get caught up in the minutia. Just go.
All right. So here, as we wrap up, if someone wanted to maybe connect with you or like follow your journey, is there anywhere you'd want to send them to, or anything in particular?
You know this about me. I'm not a big social media guy. But easiest place to find me would be LinkedIn. That's where I'm most active.
So just Ryan Craig on LinkedIn.
Yep. Yep.
And if there's more than one Ryan Craig, it's like what, Coup app or?
Yeah, I think I have Uncle Bob's on there. My little cover photo is if you want to change the world, go build a business.
There you
And
go.
you'll see my ugly mug on there. But
All right. So if you wanted to challenge our audience, is there anything you'd like to do to challenge them? Maybe someone's right on the edge. They're like, this is cool. I want that, but what's a
yeah,
challenge you'd throw out to them?
there's a lot. I would say start by reaching out to some people. It's such a low cost, low investment way of picking someone's brain. People are more willing to help and get involved. That goes for me. If I can help anyone out there, I'm happy to do it. And I would say just have a little belief in yourself and understand what the risk is. And I think the risk is typically not as big as we think it is. But to me, the biggest risk is living a life that you actually did not want to live. And so
Ooh.
if you're on the fence of starting the business, going back to the top of this episode of like, you have that idea, like go for it. It's cheaper than ever to at least test something and see if you got it. And I would say take that leap. Like, really, what is the worst that can happen?
Yeah, you can pay now or you can pay later. So,
Exactly.
all right, Ryan. Hey,
Exactly.
thank you so much for your time. I know you got a lot of places you could spend it, and I appreciate you spending it here. Thanks for tuning in to the Not a Financial Advisor podcast. This episode helped you think differently. Share it with someone you think would benefit. Remember, your potential grows when you do. We'll see you at the next one.